Welcome to Gurukul lectures on bioinformatics, and in this first lecture we will talk about the science of bioinformatics, how it evolved from biology and mixed itself with information technology, statistics, physics and computer science to give this new field of study bioinformatics to us. So, as I said earlier, bioinformatics is a multidisciplinary science that is an amalgam of biology and information technology. So, it includes biology, medicine, biochemistry, maths, physics, statistics and computer science. And the term bioinformatics was coined by Pauling and Ben Hesper in 1970, and not only it involves good knowledge of computers, but we need to be a good biologist to interpret the meanings of the biological data which we store. So, in bioinformatics we have a lot of information about nucleotide sequences, like you can see it's a DNA sequence here, and the sequence may be of protein, like an example sequence which I have brought. This is a amino acid sequence which is a polypeptide. So, how from this collection of these polypeptides we this was the work of Dr. Margaret Oakley Dayhoff in 1960. She first conceived, and she is said to be the founder of bioinformatics. She first conceived this idea of collecting these sequences in a database, and then she derived a lot of meaning out of this and implied them in evolutionary studies. She is also said to be the founder of bioinformatics. Going further, there were lots of discoveries and additions by several scientists. As I said, in 1962 this was Margaret Dayhoff. After Margaret Dayhoff in 1970, we had Needleman and Wunsch. They developed an algorithm for optical alignment of sequences. Now, what is optical alignment? In optical alignment, we take two sequences and we try to align them one over the other in the best way, where we can take out meaning out of these, meaning what pattern they store, how much similar they are. We take out that meaning from that. So, this was first algorithm which was developed, that was by Needleman and Wunsch. Then in 1977, bacteriophage Phi 174 was sequenced, and the first genome being sequenced, and it gave lot of sequences, and because of these sequences it created lot of data. We needed computer people to come and join, and then it was Walter Gott who conceived this idea of GenBank. He said we can store all the sequences in the form of a database, and he prepared a separate database for nucleic acid sequences. This is called as GenBank. Even now it is used as it is with NCBI. So, after Walter Gott, we had Smith-Waterman algorithm, which was developed for local sequence alignment. So, this local sequence alignment and this multiple sequence alignments, those were the mainstay. Those are the very important things of bioinformatics, and these computational algorithms really helped us to go to next steps in bioinformatics. Going further, we had first similarity search, fast similarity searching methods developed. Those were called FASTA methods, and they were developed by Pearson and Lippmann. These similarity methods were quite important in deriving the meaning and getting the information beforehand for several sequences. So, meaning with this development of additional developments of algorithms, the science was getting stronger and was taking shape. Then after this one, we had the establishment of National Center for Biotechnology, more popularly known as NCBI. NCBI was created, and this NCBI, everybody knows, is the main stay of bioinformatics. Then we had BLAST. BLAST, everybody knows in bioinformatics, and BLAST, the sequence similarity searching algorithm, was developed by S. Ashul, and the BLAST really made studies significant. So till now we had a good shape, the science was taking up a very good shape, but the first genome database was built in 1993 by on the what do we call this as Earthworm database, that is ACDEB, and it was quite significant. In fact, for this one only, it was used for the first time to gather the information and to organize the information in such a way that it was very, very useful for handling sequences. Then we had first bacterial genome which was sequenced, and by this year 1995 people had understood this very well, that this biology, this field of biology cannot take further until and unless this information technology or computer science people join them. So by now the science of bioinformatics was very firmly established, and the scientists were working together, and it was quite into the sight that bioinformatics was very well recognized. So that was about the evolution of bioinformatics, like how come from biology we gradually reached to information technology. So it was much like the speed with which we started using computers, it was just for the scientists using more of programs, more of algorithms, especially to the biologists. So going further with this one, I have like this was just an introduction, and in the introduction I tried to explain that how this science had taken birth from biology to bioinformatics, and now I'll tell you what are different components of this bioinformatics, meaning what all we study in this, and what are different methods, tools, techniques which makes up this science as a complete and a very important one. So the first component here is databases. Databases, now we are quite familiar with databases, and all of us have been studying these databases. The databases are computational collection of things, and they are not tables. They are not tables, rather table is an object in databases. The database may contain a nucleotide sequence or a protein sequence, or maybe the information about the structure. It might also contain specific sequences, specific information like phenotype, or maybe antibodies and specific metabolic pathways. So database is a collection of information about a specific thing, and we can divide the databases on the basis of this collection. This NCBI is the mainstay of bioinformatics. We have all sort of information available here. If we can search nucleotide sequences in this, and we can search, in fact I was planning to show you some of my sequences which were here, but anyway. So going further, I was just telling that the databases can contain DNA sequences, protein sequences, or they might contain the molecular structures, the details about the molecular structure of any molecule, or maybe a virus or a protein. It might be a collection of phenotypes, and also it can contain the complete information about any organism, like for example, if it is containing complete genome of yeast, we would say it is yeast genome database, and it really becomes handy and we can derive good meanings and very applicable meanings out of these data when we have them collected at one place. So organism, so it might contain all information about any organism. It may be a pathway or a collection of molecule of the interest. Like I said, it may be a metabolic pathway database that we are trying to trace a molecule to the to different stages in the body of an organism, and it might be specific databases like EST or antibody databases. Then now it is extended to everywhere. It is biodiversity information also is present in the databases, and I can show you one database. It's a biodiversity database which is built by us in our laboratory, and it gives you all information about the distribution of arbuscular mycorrhizal fungi which we study. So this was developed in PHP, and at the back end we used MySQL, and you can see that you could search many things in there, and it shows you a lot of information. Like it will gradually take you to Google Maps, and it will show you the locations where you can isolate a specific fungi. What I was showing you here is that if you enter the name of the fungus at the top, what you can do is you enter any AM fungi and say go. It will take you to the next page, and it will open the list of all the fungi which are occurring by that name, and if you further click them, it will open all information about that, meaning it will tell you where all it occurs in India, the geographical location on a Google map. It makes a phylogenetic tree of that, and in that phylogenetic tree what happens is you can locate the sequences of your interest. Then it also tells about the taxonomic information of that fungus. Further, you have all collection of the bibliography or the work which is done in this direction. So the databases, they are the mainstay, and they are very, very important in bioinformatics. So once we have a database built, we can do several other things in this one. So one important technique in bioinformatics is sequence analysis. Is what we do in sequence analysis is, this is an example sequence which I took it from, which I showed you earlier also. So what we do in sequence analysis is, when I look at this sequence as it is, I cannot see anything in this. But if I look at this from the perspective of a molecular biologist, and if I like to find out where is the start codon in this, where is the stop codon in this, or it may be being translated to a gene. Does it contain a gene? Or I might also like to find out that is it an exon or it has an intervening sequence. And another very quick question, is it a prokaryotic sequence or it is a eukaryotic sequence? So all these answers are very, very easy with bioinformatic tools. We have simple programs written, and with that you can easily identify that this sequence has maybe these many ORFs, these many start codons, these many stop codons, and this might be coding for a polypeptide from here to here. We might translate this to the polypeptide. So that was about it. Then the next important technique which we have in bioinformatics is similarity searches. Now what is a similarity search? It is much like Google, I would say. So what happens is, I had just tried doing this for you again in MP4, which is not working here. I had pasted a sequence and NCBI once again, and if you have a sequence of your own and if you paste it here in the search box, what it will do for you? It will open up all the sequences which have been submitted earlier, meaning a lot of people have done research before you on that sequence or similar to that. What it will do is it will open up all the names. So if you have an unknown sequence with these searches, similarity searches, and I already told you about the several algorithms which were written specifically for this work. So with this one, say for example in my sequence here, when I searched, it showed me this is RUBP case, it is resembling to RUBP case. So before starting my work further, I have an idea that it might be similar to that. So that makes it much easier when I am working further, and with similarity searches I know that this might be that sequence. And another thing, this similarity is working on the basis of overall similarity on the nucleotides. So this also gives an idea about homology, meaning how much variation has occurred in this sequence during evolution. So similarity searches is another important tool in bioinformatics that really helps you to get whatever information is available and whatever work has been done by the other scientists. So that was about similarity searches. Then we have another important technique in bioinformatics, that is sequence alignment. What we do in sequence alignment is we keep, this is a sequence alignment of 235 sequences, and these are my sequences. I was working on this, and there are several softwares available for multiple sequence alignment. What we do in multiple sequence alignment is we keep all the sequences one over the other, and we at places we insert gaps, at places we try to make a deletion, but we want to make it a perfect overlap. So when we make it a best overlap, it is optimal sequence alignment. So there can be several types of sequence alignments, and different softwares also available. Like here I was just trying to compare the results of one software, that is Clustal, with that of MAFT. And what do we get out of this multiple sequence alignment? So multiple sequence alignment, I said it is a technique to compare the different sequences and find out the common pattern in their sequence, so that we can know how much similar or how they have evolved from each other. This was it, and I hope everybody can appreciate that the sequences have huge level of similarity in them. So that's a very important technique in bioinformatics, to go for multiple sequence alignment. And this multiple sequence alignment has another very important application. Once I have aligned a sequence, what it does is it allows me to make a phylogenetic tree. So based on similarities in these sequences, it would just tell you that where it diverged itself. Like for example, this is again the phylogenetic tree for my sequences, and what I have done here is these were glomeromycota sequences. So for drawing this one, I took a lot of other sequences which were absolutely different from this. Like at the bottom you can see the sequences which are Chytridiomycota. This Chytridiomycota is not glomeromycota, but you can see that it is coming as a separate group at the bottom. So this way we can know the relation between the sequences or the genus, and how they diverged from each other, when they diverged. All this information can be very easily derived after multiple sequence alignment in the phylogeny study. All this has been possible because of this bioinformatic tools. Then the next one which we have is gene prediction. Gene prediction is very important even in the genome studies and in single gene study. What happens in gene prediction is, like I have just drawn a typical eukaryotic gene. So what we do here is when we study the structure of gene, we know that the gene might have a regulatory region in the beginning. It would have a promoter, it might have a untranslated region, would have few exons in between, then introns as well, then the untranslated region at the end. So and it would be translated to mRNA, and then it might be the intervening regions may be spliced off. This all information about a sequence can easily be taken, can easily be gathered by different bioinformatic tools. Again, starting from the beginning, it would very quickly search and will give you it is resembling to which gene, and it might be controlling which phenotype. And I understand everybody can appreciate its importance when we have a genome sequenced for any small or big organism, and then we are trying to identify how many genes does it have and which gene is corresponding to which phenotype. I really understand that nobody can imagine this work being done without computers or the applications of computational biology in this field. Again, that was biological identification of gene. I thought I'd tell you how do we identify these genes by computational methods. Like we could identify we have the DNA sequence, we will do the DNA sequence analysis, and in this analysis we'll do what? We will first remove the masking DNA sequence of the carrier molecules on which it was loaded, and then we would try to identify the ORFs. ORFs are what? The oral reading frames, which starts with a start codon and ends with a end codon, but they have the tentative possibility of coding for a gene. Then we might also identify the exons and introns, if there are any introns which will be gradually removed from here. Then we try to translate this exon by the several tools which are available, and once we have translated, we get the amino acid sequence corresponding to this DNA sequence, and then we will do homology searches or the similarity searches. We try different sequence alignment with different DNA molecules and cDNA sequences, and we can identify the regulatory sites in this. After doing all this, we have a very good guess is what our sequence might be belonging, or what it might be, what gene it is representing to. Then we have another important thing in bioinformatics, that is structure analysis and prediction. So in structure analysis, this is the 3D structure of COVID-19, and I'm just going to take this up further in the next part of the lecture, that how this structure has come as a result of bioinformatic studies. For description of structure of any organism, since last 30-40 years we used to use X-ray crystallography, and we used to derive its structure, represent that on the software, and we used to understand where is alpha helix, beta helix, and what interactions might it would have. Yeah, so this structure has come up as a result of all bioinformatics information or the resources available, and based on these softwares we can predict the 2D structures and 3D structures also. So this is the structure which has come up as a result of bioinformatics studies, is that apart from having the original information, we can use the tools to predict the structure of any molecular or any bacteria or any virus. So I'll take this up in details in the next section of the lecture, how we have used bioinformatic tools to decipher these 3D structures of these several organisms, and where else it has been applied largely. So with this one I just finish this section of the lecture. Thank you.